Hello everybody. We would like to warmly welcome you to today's webinar. The webinar is about a broad term, which is a design system. And we would like to talk about why we think that you and your marketing team will need it in the near future. I think that the best way to start, Dominic, we can move to the next slide, is to briefly introduce ourselves so that you will know who we are. My name is Kasia Hocka. I'm a product design team leader at ITO. I've been involved in product design for over 6 years. And apart from that, I'm really into interior design and any kind of graphic design out there, honestly. And here with me is Dominik Nowakowski. Dominik.
Hello, guys. My name is Dominic. I'm senior product designer at ITO for over 5 years. And beside that, my mainly task after the work is creating a brand. I will say not brand, but visual and identification for music albums for different kind of artists from Poland.
Mostly Polish rappers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Dominic. Okay, so our agenda. So what we have planned for you today. So obviously we would like to start with some basics, some basic terms. We even have a little quiz, which is gonna be super easy, and you even have to give us the answer, which is the best part of it. Then we would like to smoothly move to the question and maybe the difference between the design system and the brand guidelines, because I think that it might be an issue, or maybe, there might be a room for discussion here, especially that, considering your marketing background. Then we move to why we think sooner or later you will need a design system. And then we move to overall benefits, and maybe even traps that you might face when creating the design system. So overall, the purpose of today's webinar is for you to have a better understanding about what a design system is and, its main benefits. Apart from that, I think, Dominic, you would like to add something about the moderation of the chat.
Yeah, you guys can type anything you want on the chat, but the chat is currently moderated, so none of the messages will show up, but don't worry, we'll see all of your messages.
Yeah, and answer questions, and we hope there will be some questions to be answered. Okay, I think that we can move on. So the basic of the basics for today. What is the design system? That is the main question for today. I think that it depends on the person that you are gonna ask the question, basically. It is gonna be something different for me as a product designer. It is gonna be something different for you when you will have the design system as a person, who is responsible for the marketing in your company. And it's gonna be something different for the developer, front-end developer, let's say. So we can safely say that the design system is an umbrella term. So what we mean by that is that it has a lot of basically concepts and terms underneath it. We can move to another slide. Yes. As I've mentioned before, we have a small quiz which consists of only one question. Remember, you don't have to type the answer, you can just think about it. We will give you approximately 15 seconds because it's quite easy to answer. And the question is, which statement is a lie? And we have 3 answers to select from. A well-prepared design system, answer A, consists of brand guidelines, typography, and color usage rules. Answer B is a set of reusable and often scalable components. And answer C works similar to Lego bricks. We are now giving you the 15 seconds, so take your time, think about it, select one answer.
I see on the chat that someone answered correctly.
Okay, that's good. Okay, I think that we can move to the answer. Drum roll. They are all true. And we can move to another slide just to discuss all the answers and tell you what we mean by that. So answer A. Go, Dominic, you can.
Okay. So as answer A consists of brand guidelines, typography, and color usage rules. By saying that, we have in mind that in ITO for us, the design system includes, for example, as you can see here, we have a color palette, which we created for our recently project that we made. This one specified is for the mobile. And as you can see, we have all of the colors used within the project. And moving on, we can expand that color palette, for example, the light mode and create the dark mode, which allows us to smoothly change the view, for example, the mobile, the website, or even the presentation from light and dark mode. And beside that, we also have all of the necessary styles that we use within our project. In this case, we only have the styles for the mobile app, but it can also be expanded, for example, to the mobile typography and, for example, the presentation typography. Moving on, we have an answer B is a set of reusable and often scalable components, and this is the point where we, as a product designers, meet the most, because beside the answer A, which is the color brand guidelines and everything, which you can see on the left down corner, where we have our color guidelines and textiles. We also have our set of icons. We also have different components such as headers, buttons, inputs, and everything comes together when we create, for example, the mobile application or web application. But it also can we can use them in creation of presentation for our marketing team. And beside that, we also can include in our design system the illustration that will be used in the future or are using currently. And by saying scalable components, we prepared a little view from one of our projects that we created recently. And this view is completely built with the blocks, which are the components. And thanks to the design system, we can easily manage this view, and all of the blocks will adapt to new resolution thanks to, for example, auto layouts, and we don't have to worry about anything. And the same applies, for example, to you as a marketing team. You can create a presentation which can be scalable, and you don't need to have to worry about the margins, the spacing between elements, and stuff like that. And moving on to the answer C.
The tricky one.
Yeah,
So work similar to Lego bricks. Do you want me to say what about it?
you can go ahead.
Okay. So we can move to another slide.
Oh,
So I feel like the do we have the Lego bricks image somewhere?
I think it's loading.
It's loading. Okay,
Okay,
so we
so
can
let's
imagine.
imagine that you have on the left side the small Lego bricks.
Yeah. So the idea between the design system being similar to Lego bricks is the fact that I feel like you all know how it works. You have the smaller and the bigger pieces, and when you get the set, you take the smaller piece, you combine with another smaller piece, and then you get the bigger piece, and then you take all the bigger pieces and create even bigger piece with them. And then at the end, if you are lucky and you follow the instruction, you will get a castle or a spaceship. And I feel like this is very similar to how we create the design system, because we create a smaller piece such as icon or any smaller element that we can use in the future, and we know it's gonna be used at least twice in our design system. And then we combine it with another smaller pieces such as input, and this is what you can see in the example on the right. So what we mean by that is that the idea here is quite similar. If we know that something is gonna be used at least twice, we create a symbol of it, and then we combine it with another symbol or another style or another element. And that is why we feel like this is the similar approach here. We are connecting smaller pieces together to get something bigger. And what it gives us, in the digital world, not with the Lego bricks, is that when we think about changing the small icon within all the inputs or even elements on your presentations, you can basically change it in your design system, and it will replace everywhere within 1 second. So this is a huge convenience for you, just to get around any kind of global changes. But we are going to touch on that topic, in the meantime, in the nearest future, I would say, later on. And I know that, especially answer A, you probably thought about, okay, but design system, I feel like it's the same as the brand guidelines that we already have, because it's about colors, it's about typography. And maybe you are asking yourself, is there even a slight difference? And we have an answer for you. One rabbi will say yes, whereas other might say no. So honestly, it depends, but we can give you an answer from our perspective and based on our experience. We can move to another slide.
Okay.
And we feel like the design system is much more complex than brand guidelines, brand book, or any kind of document that talks about, the visual aspect of your company. Because for us, design system can include brand guidelines, can be a base. The brand guidelines can be a base for our design system. And honestly, in most cases, this is exactly how we start. We select colors, we select typography, we think about the layout, but also, and overall design principles. But also we can expand it, as I've mentioned before. It can go into UX and UI guidelines, which is going to be a web flow for your landing or mobile app. It can be a guideline for the design implementations for the developers that are going to work with our design system or our file overall. It can be a grid. It will be, it's going to be all the components that we are going to create for the presentation, for your social media generator, anything. And it can be the presentation components as well, so master slide, all the stuff that you probably you are already using via PowerPoint or Google Docs. So just to sum it up, yes, we feel like design system is the same as the brand guidelines, but in a way it consists of it. So that is our answer and how we think about it. We can move on.
Okay, so what exactly a design system is for us as a digital product designers? So we think of design system like of a living organism that we use on a daily basis, which includes all of the necessary elements that we can use in our work. For example, the buttons, the form controls, the icons, reusable components, and beside all the elements, we also have auto layouts, margins, grid, and every kind of stuff that it's, I would say, more technical. But on the other hand, the design system for you as a marketer can mean social media graphics, the generator for it, which we will be talking in a minute of it, the sales presentation, all kind of gadgets that you prepare in your company, the identification in your office. So basically, any stuff that would say it's not attached to a digital product, I would say. And now we will talk about why sooner or later you will need a design system.
At
And
least what we think that it might be a reason, because we prepared some abstract but not only abstract examples of a conversation, of a message that you might get from anybody from your company. And the purpose of it is just to have a brief discussion regarding the problem, the solution, and the effect that the design system can give you while solving the problem. So
exactly.
the first example that we have, okay, so we have Phil, and he's asking us, he's the CFO. So he cares about the money. Obviously, money is important, as we all know, especially nowadays. And he's asking us whether there is any chance to optimize the production costs of creating while creating the internal materials on our site, on your site. So we are talking presentations, social media graphics. You have to remember, and I know that you feel the pain, Phil doesn't necessarily know how much time does it take. He knows that it takes some time and it means money. So we can move to another slide, Dominic. So we have a problem. We have a need for optimization, and it means that we have to spend less time because it will save us money, obviously. And our solution here, and one of the biggest benefits of having the design system in your marketing team, is having patterns, templates, and overall automation of things.
Okay, so now we are going to live. I'm gonna quickly switch the file, and we're gonna show you our social media graphics generator that we created. And it's very simple. You don't need to know the software at all. You just basically have a bunch of different graphics, but they are all automated. So, for example, I can change the title here from "Hello Webinar" to "Hello Everybody," and as you can see, it's changed automatically on all of those graphics. I can also change the description, but if I don't want to have a description, I can just switch off, and it will just disappear. And it is the same for the city and time, for the date, for all rest kind of stuff. I can also change the background in my graphic. I can change to one line, I can change the photo, and beside that I can also change the graphic itself. For example, I can change it from IT to calendar, and it's just basically using only mouse. You can select the
And your
desired,
creativity as well.
yeah, your desired graphic from a drop down. So it is really that kind of simple. And beside that, we also have events, social media generator, the job offer, the new project, and every kind of stuff that we need internally. So it just saves us a lot of time, and basically it just really easy to use. That, like I said, you don't need to know the software at all. Okay, so coming back to presentation.
Presentation, great. Okay, another abstract but not really example. I feel like we are very close to Brida with that one. So Brida's problem, she's a graphic designer. She can't really stand the clutter that is building up every day on our production site. And she's asking us, you as a marketing person, why is no one using the correct hex color and the appropriate typography that she carefully selected for our brand? She is on the edge, and she has had it. So we have the problem, which is the overall clutter, the wrong color and typo usage within the company. And we can also give you a solution. So the solution here is to provide coherence and tidiness within all the documents that people are using. And by that we mean,
As you can see on the example, we have a file which includes a bunch of different rectangles that might look the same, but unfortunately they are not. And as you can see on the right side, uh, every rectangle has a different hex color. And imagine the case that instead of going to your graphic designer at the company and asking them for their help in your presentation to match the colors, you can basically just select the things that you want to change, and change that wrong color to the right one within the one click. And it's just that simple. And we avoid I would say too much communication in the company. So basically you can make small changes by your own, instead of asking someone to help you and expend the time to create it.
yes. Okay, then we have Dwight. We are missing the picture, but it's Dwight from The Office.
Okay.
So just so you know, so Dwight is from sales team, and he would like to complain about Brida, the graphic designer, because he feels like it always takes 100 of years for her to implement the smallest changes in his sales presentation, and at the end he even got the wrong version of the file. So Dwight is also not very happy, and we can move to the slide with the problem solution. So we have the problem, which is the fact that small changes always require designers' help, and often, as we've mentioned before, it means, a lot of iterations and overall frustration between two sides. And obviously, just so you know, while working with the design system, this stuff will happen either way, but I feel like it's gonna be less and less than without the design system. And we also have the solution. So again, presentation automation, which rhymes, which I love.
Exactly. And as you can see on the example, here are the some of the slides of our internal presentation that we created on a design system using auto layouts and different kind of stuff. And to just edit the slides, the presentation, for example, deleting some of the points, the bullet points, the text, or just changing it doesn't require anything. So you don't need to worry about the spacing, the margins, because the design system got it for you. And your job is only limited to changing the text, or just adding the text, deleting some points, adding the new points, and maybe just using the switches that might show up on the right side. So we are really limiting the conversation between marketing team and the designers to really, mm, I would say, the shorten the time that is used to create the presentation for your company, for your needs.
Yeah, Dominic, maybe we should, spend an extra minute and talk about the difference between having the presentation, having your presentation, our presentation, any company presentation created like that, instead of it created in, PowerPoint or Google Docs. Because I feel like, all of the people that we know basically at some point have to use that tool. So maybe you can
I
tell
think
us
we
what is
can
the difference.
talk about this in two examples more, where we talk about the file structure, and I
Okay,
think it will be a
let's.
good time to talk about it. But
Okay.
moving on.
So we have Mel on task, and he is the CEO. And for some time, well, a while ago, maybe, he decided to change the main color of your visual identity. Basically, change it from, blue to green, whatever. And he wants to do it obviously super quick. He wants to do it globally. So we are again, we have the problem with the global changes. Dominic, we can move to another slide.
Okay.
So global changes are a nightmare to implement when you don't really have a design system. And we have the solution. So again, implementing styles.
Exactly. And let's imagine a case that you'll have a big presentation coming up, for example, in 1 hour or maybe even 20 minutes. And your boss is telling you, hey, we'll need to change the orange color to the blue one. And your graphic designer, for example, is sick, or maybe he's on vacation, and you're left with your job alone. Uh, and yes, if you have a presentation, for example, in Google or PowerPoint, it will be a nightmare to you to do that, because you will need to go every single page and make sure that the color is changed. But instead of that, we have a presentation created with the design system, which allows us to smoothly change the our main color to simply just another one within 2 clicks. And as you can see on the example, we are selecting all of the slides. We're clicking the orange on the right side, and we're picking the blue, and the job is done, and you are saved a lot of time and a lot of frustration, I would say.
And it applies basically to everything that we created a style with. So it's gonna be typography, and thanks to tokens that we briefly talked about, it can also mean a bunch of other things, even the way your line underneath the text is gonna look like. So the possibilities are basically endless, and there is a lot of ways to speed up the changes and avoid the clutter that we've mentioned before.
Yeah, one thing, just keep in mind that the example is showing you the changing of color only in one file, but we are able to change the color in every single file that we created with our design system, just the same way as the example show.
Yes. Okay, now we have Steven. Steven is the head of marketing, and he is telling us that, hey, there's a new, person coming to our team, and obviously we have to onboard that person. So he's asking us, how much time is it gonna take, and you are wondering how are you gonna do it with all the tasks that you currently have in your mind, and also that you have to do it ASAP. So we have a problem, which is the onboarding is quite time consuming when files are messy. So again, clutter. And our solution here is the new file structure.
Exactly. And as you can see on the example here, you have a screenshot of some of our internal files that we created for our needs. And basically, by having the things like that, you don't need to worry about the version, which version is correct, which version is outdated, and we don't use it because the files are stored on the cloud. So basically, you have remote access to it from every single place and device that you will access to it. And beside of that, all of the files are connected to the main one, which is our design system. And for example, if we change the color in design system from our orange to blue, and it will automatically update on all of the files that you can see on the attached example. And I think this is a really big game changer for us as a product designer, and I would say for also the marketing team, which
Yeah.
is yeah.
And also the sales team as well, because as you can see, I hope that we are not violating Rodo right now. But apart from that, you can also see that we have sales presentations here. So any team member from sales team knows where to look for his presentations if needed when there's a situations required some changes or anything. Okay. And now we are talking with Mr. Robot, who is our full stack developer, and he is also not very happy. He's quite, annoyed with the assets that he got from you that we delivered in Photoshop for the next landing page. So he is reminding us that, dude, it's 2020, so it's time to move on to some other tool. So we have our problem, which is assets delivered in outdated tool, and we have the solution, which is selecting a new tool, new approach, and new file hierarchy as well.
Exactly. And as you can see, we have a very funny case when we can see a Matt developer on the left our corner, and we have a screenshot of website created in Photoshop. And we all know that Photoshop is not a good tool to create and hand over files to our developers because first of all, it isn't in vectors. The developer can see, for example, the spacing, the margins in our project. They cannot smoothly export all of the assets that we are using in our project. And thanks to that, we are having a design system. And as you can see here, we have all of our necessary components that we are using in, for example, our website. And beside of benefiting the developer or maybe the product designer, it also benefits the marketing team because thanks to that, if we create the even bigger blocks for our website, we can create, for example, a new landing page for promotion within a couple of minutes, like in answer C in our quick question, I would say, which was that the design system is like Lego bricks, and this is the exact way that you could create your own landing page, creating all of the components. You just stack the pieces, and you're good to go.
Yeah. So overall, what we would like to tell you what we would like to tell you here is the fact that design system can touch on every team basically that is in your company. It can be, there are some benefits for everybody, for the designer, for, people from sales team, especially for you from marketing team, for developers. Anybody can use it. It can be used for marketing purposes. It for sure it can be used for creation of web and mobile applications or websites, and it even can be used for print stuff, but I would say it's more like a complex tool to storage any kind of visualization, so that you will have an overall view of what you already have. But obviously this is, design system is the digital tool, and we still like to stick to SMIC in terms of printing, and not going with hex or RGB in terms of color systems. But apart from that, it can also include the print materials within it. Okay, we can move on.
Exactly. And now we're gonna talk about the traps that you can fall into. Let's assume that you are amazed with the design system and you will try to make on your own. And yes, there might be some traps. Let's hope not, but still we will discuss a couple of major examples. And the first one is poorly configured design system. And there are two things that to use and operate the design system, you only will need, for example, computer and a few minutes to understand how the software works. But on the other hand, to create such a complex organism, which is design system, you will need to have an understanding how all of the colors, components interact with each other, how they interconnect, how to prepare all the possible variation and their nesting for example, of the components, how many variants we will need, what will happen if we do that, and what will happen if we do something else. And with that, we can smoothly move to the next point, which is ignoring how elements and components interact. Because the design system, I would say, at some point will will start being a complex creature, and you need to think uh, about the design system that it's it lives, and you need to think what will happen, for example, with the button, if I expand it, if I shrink it, what will happen, for example, with two buttons meet each other, for example, on a website. And this is the stuff that you will need to have a knowledge to do that. But beside of that, to use already design system, it doesn't require almost anything. Moving to the another trap that you can fall into is building the design system only for the here and now. And yeah, this is the something that I told before. You need to think of design system, for example, like living organism that evolves with you within the time, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So you cannot create a design system by saying, oh, I'll need today only that and that and that. This is not how the things work. You will need to think, what will I need in the future, what can I do with that in the future, what will happen, for example, if we gonna change that, what will happen if we gonna add that. So this is the, I would say, the main traps that you can fall into it. And the final one, this is the usage of wrong tools. That uh, the building of design system is hard enough as it is, but if we add to it wrong tool usage, it really can create a big mess with it. So mm, the first thing I would say and recommend to you is to selecting the right tool to create such a design system, because few years ago, sorry for that, the tools that were available on the market were really limited, I would say. And now we have a plenty of options to choose with, and this is the thing that you only need to think, I would say, the once you pick the right tool, and I would say that's it.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to touch on what tools we recommend? Because there are at least three that can give
Yeah, I
you.
would recommend switching from, for example, from Google, from PowerPoint, from Office to software such as, for example, Adobe XD, Framer, Sketch, and in our case, Figma. And I would say this is the softwares that allows us to create such a complex design system that can be with you for years. And I would say this is this one the most choose tools on the market that you can choose.
Yes. Okay, so just to sum everything up, we have a list of all the benefits that the design system and its creation can give you. So, saving time and money during design work. As we've mentioned before, using patterns, template, and everything, it will give you more time. Well, you will spend less time while implementing the changes, and your CFO and you as well are gonna be happy with the timing of things.
Yeah, and I can also add that you're basically avoiding the communication between you and your graphic designer to make small changes. So
Yes.
you can make small adjustments by yourself.
Maintaining consistency across all graphic materials. Again, as we've mentioned before, when you have the styles, when you have everything in order, you basically avoid clutter. And of course, the design system, it doesn't necessarily, with design system, it doesn't necessarily mean that, the clutter is not going to be there. But if the design system is, prepared by somebody who knows what he's doing or she's doing, there is a bigger chance that the clutter is not going to be there, and that it will be much easier for you to use and work with all the materials. Dominique, do you want to talk about the next one?
Yeah, facilitated management of branding and key visual elements. And thanks to having a design system and your, for example, uh, branding and key visual elements, it gets very easy with that. So, for example, like I said before, if you want to change a color, you can change it globally. You will have only one, for example, logo that you will use across all of your files, and you're avoiding creation of mess, for example, with different version of your logo, with different version of your hex colors, and I
Yeah,
would say
that's about it. Yeah. Next
exactly.
ability to collaborate between employees. Yes, this is a huge benefit for us, to be honest, because being able to collaborate, leave comments, and have the final version of the file in your cloud is like a huge difference between what we had before. Because I know that you all remember, or still remember, exchanging the final version of a file between people. It's a nightmare. For sure somebody is using the wrong version, the older version. So with the design system and with the tools that we've mentioned before, you are avoiding that situation, at least 50% of that we can guarantee. So collaboration is great. Seamless implementation of changes globally and quickly. This is something that we talked about again. So global changes within one
We
second.
can move on.
Yeah. Design system is a single source of truth for everybody. But I think that it's self-explanatory. As Dominic said, when you have one version of a logo and it's created in a symbol, so that one symbol is placed in 100 documents, we know that this is the final version. And if something changes, we are replacing it, and everybody knows that this is the correct one. So yeah,
Yeah,
self-test.
and I will also add that it's benefits not only the marketing team or, for example, the design team, but it also can benefit the development team, the QA team, the business analyst team, and I would say everyone in the company can benefit from it.
Yes. Facilitated onboarding of a new marketing employee, and not only marketing employee, because I would say that, for graphic designers, product designers, it's a huge benefit as well. It's really easy to get to know the files and to see the structure, and basically I feel like the design system welcomes everybody warmly, as we did hopefully at the beginning of this webinar. So when the design system and the structure is there, I feel like it's quite easy for you to understand what's going on pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And design system can have branching into marketing, web, mobile, and print. This is, we talked about it. All the people in your company at some point will use the design system, I think.
Yeah, and I think that we can add that you can use one and only the design system file in your web file, in your mobile, for example, app if you have it. You can also use it in your presentation slides, social media graphics, and also the print. And all
Yeah.
of the files will be connected to the one and only single source of truth, which is our design system.
Yeah. Which means for you that it's quite easy to expand, um, you know, in the digital way. So if you don't really have the website created for you, if you want to create another landing, if you want to create another presentation or start doing a campaign in the social media, it's much easier to do so. It's much easier to expand your work, I would say, in terms of what you do in your company with the design system.
Exactly, because you're not starting from the scratch.
Yes, and it benefits members of all departments. I think that we already talked about it.
Yeah, at least 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. I know that we are, repeating ourselves, but maybe it will, make you remember some stuff after the webinar. Okay, so it's time for our Q&A session. Dominic, do we have some
Yeah,
questions?
I think we have some of questions which showed up in our moderated chat. And the first
Okay.
question is, do you mean if I have design system, I don't need a design team anymore?
Dominic, you can answer that one.
Um, I would say yes and no, because if you would like to make major changes, for example, in your design system, you will definitely need a designer for that. But if you will have, for example, small changes, you will need to change a copy, or maybe do you want to add an icon, or maybe change the color of icon. This is the changes that you can make on your own. But I would say that having a proper working design system doesn't mean that you don't need a graphic designer anymore. He will You will still need it, but not as much as you would need it without the design system.
Yeah,
Do you
sure.
agree?
Yeah, I wouldn't add anything. I think that you answered exactly as I would. So we can move to another one. How long does it take to create a design system? I can answer that one. I feel like it depends on the scale of your design system, basically. So I feel like the minimal version of the design system would require at least 3 days, I would say. But this is gonna be like a basic design system that consists of, color scheme, the typography, maybe grids, and honestly it depends on what tools, you want to use in the future. Maybe not tools, but how would you like to use the design system? Is it going to be only for the presentation? Is it going to be for your website? Is it going to be for the social media generator? And you have to keep in mind that the generator that Dominic showed you was something that we custom made for our company, because we found the need to, as I've mentioned before, optimize our work. So it depends on how much stuff the designer preparing the design system would need. The minimal would be 3 days. Dominic, do you agree? Something like that.
Yeah, and I will also add that, like I talked before, that you cannot think of design system only for today. and you will need to think about the tomorrow, the next year, and etc. Because it all affects how long the design system will be created. And like Katie said, it might be 3 days, but it might be even a month. So it really depends how big is your project and how much do you have elements.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that in terms of questions, this is it.
I think, we have another one. Are there any specific tools for creating such a
Oh yeah.
design system? Additional cost? I think I can answer on that. I would say to create such a design system, there are some mainly used softwares such as Adobe XD, Sketch, Framer, Figma. But in terms of all of the software, I would say they are paid, but the Figma to the some point is free, that you can try out the different things. But uh, if you would try to build an design system that is big enough to cover your needs, I think the payment is going to show on every software that you will be using. But I would say this is the life changing. So I really recommend switching from, for example, Office, which is paid anyway, to different software.
Yes. Okay, I think that, in terms of our Q&A session, that would be it, and we can move to the last slide, which
Yeah.
is the contact slide. And also, we have a small present for you guys. We invite you to book a free consultation with us, 15 minutes consultation. Here's the address. It's design.system@itio.com. And yeah, I think that we can have a little discussion regarding your needs and maybe our approach to the specific case of yours in terms
Yeah,
of the
we
design.
really recommend to hitting up on that email, because I think I can see that we still have a lot of more questions. It's coming up every minute, but we are losing sometimes time now, because not because, but mm, we are going to end it anyway.
Yes. Okay, just to sum things up, write to us. We will, book a consultation with you and talk about your case and maybe, work in the future and create a design system for you that will
And we
work
will
better.
try to find the best solution for you.
Yes. So thank you everybody for watching and listening, and have a really nice day. It was a pleasure to provide you with our knowledge, and thank you for the questions, and bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.